ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you are ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, Becoming Natural fans. I hope you're having a wonderful week. This is Penny, and today I wanted to address a lesson that I have learned over the years, just so I can impart the gravity of what we choose to put in our bodies and give you a really good example of the long-term issues you might have and not even know it. So today's episode is very personal after a doctor's appointment that I went to, but this is episode 45, the devastating tetracycline side effects that shattered my gut and my gums years later. I have mentioned in multiple podcasts the battle I have had with bleeding gums, with Candida yeast overgrowth, and among many other GI symptoms. Over the years, I have learned through my research that many of my symptoms are also symptoms of the use of tetracycline, an antibiotic that was commonly used by dermatologists when I was a teenager, and an antibiotic that I took off and on for several years as a preventative measure for my complexion. Now, I had breakouts, and I'm not saying that I had beautiful skin, but I did not have acne, so it really was preventative for me and not necessary. But I really don't think that this is a go-to treatment anymore for dermatologists. But what I do think and what I do want to talk about is for people today and to address and think about symptoms that you have if you took something like this or if your children have taken anything like this. When I was in high school, a lot of my friends were on tetracycline. We all went to the same dermatologist, and we didn't know you were supposed to take an antibiotic every single day, or I didn't. And I would take it, and then I wouldn't, and then I would take it. You're never supposed to go back and forth on antibiotics like that. And I had certainly never heard of probiotics before. I firmly believe that all of that on and off use of tetracycline caused a lot of damage to my stomach. That's when I had my first stomach pain that I felt like I needed to take a heartburn medication. I had my first yeast infection and I got super puffy. I absolutely hate my high school pictures. I was an athlete. I played tennis 7 days a week. There was no reason that I should have suddenly gained weight or gotten puffy, but I looked really bad. I didn't look healthy. All of that in hindsight was the Candida yeast overgrowth beginning that I didn't even know was a thing or discover for 15 years when I did this massive Candida diet that I talk about often. The yeast makes you look puffy, just like yeast does with bread. That imbalance in my gut caused by the antibiotics was the beginning of a very long haul that I'm still paying the price for. I got progressively worse through college and graduate school, having my first emergent surgery when I was 24 years old. And ironically, I was always treated like a unicorn by each of my doctors. My Crohn's is not in my colon where it is typically found. My colon has always been healthy. My Crohn's was located in my stomach. For years, I stumped all of the doctors because none of the Crohn's meds actually worked for me because the pills were created to release in my colon and were bypassing my stomach where my disease was. So it makes perfect sense that the tetracyclines initiated the inflammation in my gut where they released and led to the actual disease in my stomach. And ultimately, my stomach was so inflamed, it was swollen shut, and I couldn't even drink water without vomiting. It was brutal. There are studies linking tetracycline use to Crohn's disease as it strips the lining of your stomach. There are also studies that link it to bleeding of your gums, the graying of your tooth enamel, and bone loss of your teeth. I have all of them. So while I've managed to decrease the bleeding of my gums, that have been the most obvious symptom for me that I've worked on, over the last couple of years, my gums have been receding, and my dentist has become more concerned for the long-term health of my teeth. I have always been really good at managing my teeth, so it has been so discouraging that every time I go to the dentist now, instead of my usual A+ report, I have more concerns than praises. I had an appointment last week with a periodontist. Periodontist is a dentist, but they specialize, ironically, when you talk about specializing, but they are the experts for the bone and the gum health of your mouth. They focus on the tissues that support your teeth. When I was in the hospital, after getting my stomach removed and ultimately getting septic, I clenched my teeth really, really bad. And when I clenched my teeth, I cracked my bottom 2 molars in the back. That's where I held my stress when I was in pain or having stressful procedures. From all that clenching, I cracked those bottom back molars. Then it took about a year for me to recover from all of my abdominal surgeries to finally address my cracked teeth. So when I saw my dentist, I had to get 2 crowns, which was a horrible appointment for the location of where the crowns were and keeping my mouth open for all that time. My dentist actually stopped and said he felt so bad for me that he wanted to put me under for this procedure. And on a completely unrelated side note, because of this, and he wanted to put me under, I mentioned to him that I was a hard stick. And being a hard stick means that my veins were terrible then. They're much more healthy now, but it was very difficult to put an IV in me. So instead of an IV, because it's not a common thing in a dentist's office, I think I made them nervous, I had to take an oral anesthesia pill. I didn't even know that existed, and it scared me a little bit. I took this pill and just sat there in the chair waiting to conk out. I didn't even know we could do that. So ultimately, after all of that chaos, one of the crowns failed a few years later. And at that point, I had to get 1 root canal, which now I know everybody says root canals are bad. I don't know why. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, but I'm a little nervous because I do have 1 root canal. So I go to the dentist all the time. I'm fanatical about my teeth. I floss every single night. I probably brush my teeth, if not 3 times a day, sometimes more. I always have a toothpick or floss with me because I'm always worried about getting food stuck in my teeth as I age, and also because my gums are receding. So initially, I did relate my increasing issues with my teeth and my gums back to when I was septic because just at that time, I was on 10 IV antibiotics at one time. It was a doozy. But as I mentioned before, I've read more and more about this link between specifically tetracycline and many of my issues, including oral teeth health. And that includes minocycline and doxycycline. They are all tetracyclines. They're in the same category. So my teeth have gotten progressively worse. Just my gum health and my teeth have always been clear. I don't know if you know this, but as I've moved to different cities and I've gone to a new dentist, every time I sit down in a new dentist chair, they're like, "Oh, you've taken tetracycline." And I look at them and say, "How do you know this?" Well, tetracycline, it kind of makes the white of your teeth become transparent. I would say translucent. It's not like you can totally see through my teeth, but if I get up close in the mirror, I can wiggle my tongue behind my teeth and I can see my tongue through my teeth. And they're not completely opaque. And that is a common problem, I know, with tetracycline. I've always been very worried about that, and I've always been reading up on how to make my teeth stronger, better, whiter, more opaque. I'm neurotic about it. I go to my 6-month visits on the dot. I love to get my teeth cleaned. I am everything about teeth health. So after that root canal, I've been kind of investigating what's going on while I continue to get recession. And no matter what I do, every time I go to the dentist, I have another report that I need to work on something. It's very, very discouraging. So I had that appointment last week with my periodontist. And while he was looking at my gums and he was looking at my teeth, it actually took me a whole year to make that appointment because I was so irritated because I have talked about the gum bleeding. I've managed that kind of homeopathically by doing different things to keep them from bleeding, but my gums are still inflamed, according to my dentist and the periodontist, and I definitely have receding gums. But this periodontist was awesome. I really liked him. He kept saying, "I'm so encouraged. You're here at the right time." He has a plan, but I'm still going to a periodontist because my gums aren't good. I shouldn't be going to a periodontist. Of course, I asked all the questions, and I'm sure he was thinking, "Oh, Lord, here she's that kind of patient." But I told him that I wanted to treat as much naturally as I can, especially knowing that the medication for something else 35 years ago got me here. I certainly am a little gun shy on medications. And I even admitted my vice of having a Coke a day. Could this be the problem? I put it all out there. I told him everything I've done naughty in my life, in my mouth, and what I've eaten or drank or taken. And he told me that my Coke was actually okay. I got a seal of approval. But he did, on a side note, say, "Don't drink energy drinks because drinking energy drinks are like putting battery acid on your teeth." But he did keep saying that I'm a textbook example of patients that he sees that have a history of long-term tetracycline use. Full circle here. Tetracycline disrupts the microbiome in your mouth as well as your gut, which makes sense. Just like we mess up the microbiome in our gut, So we take probiotics to help that. But guess what? They don't break down in your mouth. So you get the probiotic support in your gut, but not in your mouth. So there was a period of time where I had gone down this rabbit hole and I had some probiotics that I sucked on that were supposed to help the microbiome in your mouth. And he actually said, good try. You were on the right path. But basically, all of my effects are based on using the tetracycline, and I haven't used it in 35 years. It's not like it's an ongoing medication that I still take. I've never been angry about any of my health issues as bad as it was. Anger has never really been an emotion, but I am ticked off. I'm just really mad that tetracycline has been the gift that keeps on giving throughout my entire life. It has caused so much heartache between me and my family and pain and all the things, and now my teeth. And I firmly believe that tetracycline initiated all of it, even my gut issues. Maybe I do have a bad gene, but it certainly jump-started the autoimmune issues. I have other opinions on that as well, but I digress. I always had a hunch about the tetracycline. And so I've never taken my kids to a dermatologist simply because I knew that that was always the default for me when I went. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but I know that they would automatically put you on something oral, some oral medication to clear up their skin. And maybe we don't know the side effects of what's the new medication that they're taking. So I've always looked for natural things that have worked for my kiddos. So they have never once been to a dermatologist. And I just want to share with the world that the overuse of antibiotics, which we didn't know at the time, is so destructive. I don't blame my dermatologist, but it just goes to show that medicine is really, really great. Antibiotics saved my life, but we don't always know what we're taking. We don't know if it's safe for the long-term use. We don't even know when we think we know, and you don't find out that you didn't know until 30 years later when you have all of these other problems with your body. And who would have thought that taking an antibiotic would cause so much grief for me 35 years down the road? The stomach kind of makes sense because that's where the pill goes. But then my teeth and my gums, and the periodontist was talking about the health of my bones and my teeth being weak. And he kept saying, this is classic tetracycline use. I want to share this because I don't know that everybody is putting this together. I don't even know that dentists are putting this together with the potential gut issues connected. Obviously, they knew that tetracycline was causing, the clear teeth, but how it relates to the rest of our body. This guy was amazing, and obviously he was a specialist, so he sees all the worst case scenarios like me, and he sees patients like me all day long, every day, so he knows. So when I shared with him that I had these Candida issues and I had done this crazy diet, he was like, that makes total sense. And I know that I'm an extreme case, but basically our medical model teaches us to specialize and break down our body into these tiny parts with all of these different issues, and we go to a different doctor for every issue, but really many of our symptoms are all connected. And I laugh because I went to a specialist for my gums and teeth, but I had an itch on my foot one time that would not go away. I never went to the doctor to say, hey, I have an itch on foot, because what's he going to tell me to do, right? But all of that went away when I did the Candida yeast diet and I killed off that yeast. I also had chronic sinus headaches. I had no drainage. I had never had allergies in my life. That's Candida. All the things that were going on with me, including all the gut things, went away when I did the yeast diet. So all of these symptoms were completely related. And what I know now, because I'm getting certified as this integrative health practitioner, which I love, it is all about your gut health. It's all about healing our gut. You always hear people say there's this gut-brain connection. Oh, it's massive. It's huge. There are things that if you don't have a healthy gut, your brain is whacked. Also, you have emotional, ups and downs. You can't focus on things. You have anxious feelings. You have to have a healthy gut in order to heal your body. But what happens is your gut separates, the cells in your gut separate. We've talked about this before. And you get what's called leaky gut, which I know is a trendy word, but it's true. Everybody talks about leaky gut these days, but when you get it, what that means is the cells are separating in the lining of your gut or in the lining of your stomach, and it's allowing the toxins and the things that are in our stomach to leak through our stomach lining and out into our bloodstream. So it becomes systemic. It is no longer just isolated to our GI system, which is completely made to handle, a lot of things. But once it becomes systemic, we start getting it in the toxins, pesticides, all the things, and we start getting it in our other organs. And we start getting it in the bloodstream. We get autoimmune diseases because it's affecting our entire body instead of just our gut. So if we can repair or prevent those leaky junctions, we can start healing with time. Not overnight, with time. The issues in our gut, which can ultimately help reduce our symptoms because we're making those junctions tight again and decreasing the toxins that escape our gut. And hopefully, in the long term, a lot of the things that go on with our bodies. I want to shout it from the mountaintops, this link of antibiotic use slash overuse and the pros, because there are pros, but then the cons and when we shouldn't be using them. I know as a mom, when my kids were babies, I didn't want them to cry and they had sinus infections or ear infections. My kids got antibiotics. They could be facing the same thing as I am. One of my sons in particular has asthma and allergies and had so many antibiotics for ear infections. Bless his little heart. I am just irritated that this one medication that I didn't even need to take has been connected by more than one doctor to being the root of all of my issues. I remember seeing a functional medicine doctor for the first time, and she was going down the list of all of my symptoms and all of the things. And I said, I have Crohn's disease. And she was the first doctor that said, why do you have Crohn's disease? And I said, well, nobody's ever asked me that before. It always stopped at Crohn's. And you have autoimmune disease, and then people just say, well, now expect more autoimmune diseases to come. My doctor said, that's just the life that you've been dealt. I want to stop that cycle. I want to stop it, and I already have. I was diagnosed with Sjogren's, although I've never had symptoms. But this functional medicine doctor, was the first person that said, why? Why do you have the Crohn's? Because she said that her opinion is that she can relate most autoimmune diseases back to either Lyme disease or a mold toxicity. But I'm also going to say this bacterial imbalance, because it's similar to the toxicity, that it could be a major cause of this disruption in our microbiome, causing so many more issues in our body. And those issues may not be right now. They may be when you're 50. Hello, 50, here I am. So I am far better than I was when I was 40, and I'm way healthier. I don't take medication, but I am dealing with the ramifications of not medications for Crohn's yet, because I took all of those too, but I am dealing with the ramifications of the dadgum antibiotics that I took for my complexion that I didn't even need to take when I was 16 years old. I don't know how long I took them, but it was only in high school, yet they have plagued my body for life. I just want to pass on this little food for thought out there, not only to help possibly connect the dots for anyone else out there that may have taken tetracycline, if you're close to my age, but also for your kiddos. Just be careful what you put in your bodies to treat them, no matter what it is. I've certainly made many mistakes for myself and unknowingly for my kids. Nobody tries to harm ourselves intentionally. If that's something you took, and if you have symptoms or if you have issues, maybe they're all connected, and maybe you can help yourself as well by figuring those things out. Maybe you can help your child out. If they have stomach aches or if they have other issues that you just don't know what they're from. We have to learn to look at the whole body and not relegate complaints and symptoms to one doctor for this and another doctor for that. I just want to be able to help people. I want to be able to help people connect the dots and use my experiences to discover maybe what you're going through as well. Because I just think that we're learning so much more, and our eyes are being opened to toxins and pesticides. And even when you're trying to be healthy, it's a pain in the butt. You have to read every single label. You have to know what's in your food or what pesticides were on your food, or if an ingredient is a hormone disruptor, or the list goes on, all the things. And it's so incredibly frustrating because not everybody wants to take the time to learn or understand that. I don't, not when I'm standing in the grocery store, and I enjoy this stuff. I just want to help anybody who might be experiencing similar issues. But mine date back to high school. 35 years it's been, and I'm still having problems from that one medication that I didn't really need to take, and it has caused a lifetime of heartache. I am happy to tell people what I've learned in research because I don't want anybody to have to go through that. It has been a whole lifetime of lessons, and apparently the lessons are still coming. But I will continue to dig in and see how I can help myself and my teeth. Maybe there's a way to stop the madness and reverse the damage done thus far. I'm still digging and learning. Just be cognizant. Myself included, all of us, we tend to trust too easily things we shouldn't trust. Studies are fallible, studies are tweaked, and it is absolutely a necessity for me to know the long-term, very long-term side effects before I will take a medication anymore. I have made many, many mistakes because I was desperate, I was in pain, or I trusted the outcome. And we've been taught to trust a system that we are learning doesn't put the patient first all of the time. Not only does this apply to medications that we take, this is but one example. It's anything we put in our bodies or on our bodies or around our bodies, including my Coke and dyes and preservatives. It is a dirty world, my friends. It's overwhelming, often discouraging. But if we just keep plugging away, learning from our past mistakes, sharing our mistakes, and making simple adjustments to our daily life, we will always be improving. Small improvements over time add up, and small improvements are far better than no improvements at all, or worse yet, doing more harm to our bodies by not changing the things we know that we should change. So I just wanted to share this experience. Hopefully that can help someone out there. If you want to know more about the Candida diet, I will link it again. I have an incredible link to a great resource. This is something that you should probably do once a year. When I was doing it back the first time, the nutritionist who walked me through it said that her whole family did it once a year, which is actually quite smart. The idea is that you kill off the Candida. That's the only way you starve the Candida, because you can take medications. And if you take an antifungal or something like that, the ones that do survive are like super powered. So the best way to get rid of the yeast, they say, is to starve it to death. So I will link that up because I do think that it was very impactful for me and one of the best things I did for my health. But I hope you have a great day. I hope this helps someone. Always feel free to reach out. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.